So, hi guys, if you are in the room, if you are watching me on YouTube, if you're watching us on the YamYam Retro Gaming Facebook page, drop us a message in chat right now. Say hi. You can see I've changed things up a lot since the last time I did a Spectrum Next stream. A lot has changed. The world for one, but the way I do my streams for another. Cheers, by the way. I've made it my mission to make sure I've got a drink in hand when I do these in future. So I hope you can all hear me. Just please drop me some messages in and tell me if everything's okay, if you can see and hear everything fine, because this is kind of a tester for how I'm going to be doing videos going forward. Obviously, I've now set up a brand new YamYam Retro Gaming YouTube channel. I announced the other day, so any further Spectrum Next streams will now be streamed to my Facebook page and to YouTube. So if you want to share them with anybody, get subscribed to my YouTube channel, and then you can share them with anyone you want to who isn't on Facebook. A lot of people have been asking me to do it for a while. The entire back catalogue's now on there, and all the future streams will go on there directly at the same time as this, so you can view it anywhere you want to. Quite handy when you want to view it back as well, because obviously the YouTube app is on a lot more devices. So but yeah, hope you're all having a good week. The weather's turned a little bit nice again, just in time for the weekend. Been crap all week, especially around by me. It's been pissing it down, to be quite honest, and it's been a little bit grim. But on the gaming front, hiya Paul, thanks for dropping me a message in. I'm glad somebody's listening at least. Yeah, so it's been a bit of a dull week, but I've been trying to get some things done. Most of all, like you can see, I've scaled the way I do my streaming quite a lot, and you're going to see quite a few changes on this. Obviously, I've set up this nice little scene you see here. Steve Day has designed me a nice little logo to go down in the corner, and yeah, it's just going to be a lot more presentable for you guys to watch back. It means I haven't got to mess around swapping around cameras backwards and forwards. I haven't got problems with audio because I've now got a mic directly hanging from my head, and it means I haven't got to disturb too many people with the sounds coming from my computer because it's all in my earpiece. So oh, how's it going, man? All my Scottish friends seem to be logging on first by the look of it. So what have I got for you today anyway? Right, well, I've been sent a couple of things. There's been a lot happening. By now, most of the world has started to receive their Spectrum Nexts. I've had both of mine come to me. Well, I say both of mine. Yours truly and my brother's has arrived, so they're all taken care of. Aaron managed to get his, who managed to get his up and running. And I've seen all the messages all over the Spectrum Next groups about people getting them in Portugal, Australia, America, all across Eastern Europe. I've seen everybody starting to get them now, and it's really good to see, because it means there's now going to be a proper user base for those people who are creating games. And there's also a lot of people out there doing little tricks. I mean, I've seen some fancy things being done on the wall in terms of demos. I've seen people messing around with sprites and trying to see what the possibilities are for creating games with a hell of a lot more detail than they used to have. And there's just a lot happening. Obviously, Rusty Pixels have released their first 3 games. The physical games you can still, I think they've capped orders for now, but the pre-orders for those are being compiled, and once these stocks eventually come from China, obviously everything's gone a bit up in the air because of this COVID-19 business. Once all that stuff arrives, they'll start shipping those out to people. But there's a lot of other people now starting to come out, and they're starting to release their games and tease what's coming. And one of those is Delo Games. Now, this is a company who haven't been on my radar for quite some time. I originally spoke to them when I first heard about a game in the works by them way back when. I look back on my message, I think it was last March. And the reason it's kind of come to my attention more is because obviously I speak to Simon Butler a fair lot, and Simon Butler's done quite a bit of pixel work for this game, and he's been pushing it recently, and he said it was up and coming. So I had a chat with Daniel Lopez, the guy who's programmed it all, and I pre-ordered myself a copy, so those will be coming out mid-summer sometime, hopefully, as long as the stocks are okay on SD cards and that. I've pre-ordered mine, and I'm looking forward to getting it. But in advance of that, I spoke to him nicely, and he said, it'd be good to see it featured somewhere. And I told him I wanted to start doing some next streams again once more things start to come out. Now the system's here, and he says, well, here you go. I'll send you a demo. show people what you want to show them. So that's what I've done. And the game is called QB, and as the name would suggest, for anybody who hasn't seen it, it is an iteration of Qbert, the arcade game, with that crazy orange little dude who swears a lot, bouncing up to the top, down, left and right on a big cubed, isometric cube-based stage. And it's been reworked into a game called QB, where the title character is now a bee. And again, it's another demonstration of how the Next itself can do an arcade port. You know, it might not be an official arcade port, but it's definitely it's as close to the arcade game of Qbert as you're going to get. And it is absolutely brilliant. It's got some brilliant music. The characters look nice and detailed, far more detailed than the arcade original. And it's really fun to play and really slick. So we're going to call that up now. I'm just going to load this up. Give it a second and you should see it appear in the window. There we go. Just give it a second so I can check that that's actually loaded up properly. Ooh. 1 second. There we go. That's better. So you should now be able to see that, guys. Sorry about that. Still practicing with this streaming software. I'm not totally familiar with it all yet. Been practicing with it, but I'm starting to get to grips with it. So yeah, QB anyway. This game's going to get it's got a physical release coming. It's going to be coming from Spain. So if you are outside of Spain, then obviously local VAT or taxes or whatever are going to apply when you do it. But I think all in all, I ordered my copy of this. I think the game was priced at around the £17 mark, and then once you added in the shipping and VAT for the UK and whatever, I think it came to just over £20 for this game, which isn't bad going. I mean, like, people have been expecting to pay between £10 and £20 for the games, and for me here in the UK, I'm used to paying, you know, import charges and things on all the things I buy from overseas. And I'm pretty sure that, you know, that's not too far out the way for a lot of people to pay. So, the game itself, what's it like? Right, well, we've got this cool little title screen and nice background music. You should just about be able to hear over my voice. And if we go into the credits, you can see there all the people who worked on it. Obviously, the people who are working on Spectrum Next games, they've done a lot to help each other. Not only in developing the firmware for the system itself, a lot of the game development has actually driven what the final spec of the initial firmware was, and that they've also been borrowing little bits from each other and giving each other advice on how to handle the you know, the sound package, the graphics package, whatever else is going on. And that's why you can see on here credits to people like Mike Daly, Rusty Pixels, and the Spectrum Next team. They all do help each other, and I hope that everyone out there will help these guys by buying the games that they're producing, because these aren't just shitty, you know, these aren't shitty homebrew things that are just knocked up by people you see all the time. There's some brilliant indie development work going on out there on all systems, but you know, the work on the Next is really it's still being done by people who got history in the industry. They're people who've got experience, and they're people who really care about their craft. And for the most part, the games you're going to see are going to be pretty top notch, whatever's coming on. So if we go to options first of all, see what we've got. So we've got the high score table, as you'd expect. I've already had a game of this earlier on. That's why there's a blank entry at the top. I forgot to put my name in. We've got instructions which tell us. So we've got Q, L, P and S as a mapping, which is a new mapping, I suppose, but it's got to be a little bit different for a game where you actually move diagonally normally, rather than, you know, rather than up, down, left and right. You've got up, down, left and right, but it's rotated 45 degrees, so you've got to come to something that works for you. Now what I've done, I've actually mapped the keys to O, P, K and L, and if you look at your keyboard in front of you, with the way the slant of your keyboard is, it actually puts the keys in a kind of square orientation, and it's quite comfortable to use three fingers as you would do with an up, down, left and right arrows, but to kind of move your middle finger to the up or down, heading up left or down right a lot more comfortably. You've also got a smart bomb. The smart bomb I think kills everything on screen, but you only get a limited amount of those. I think you can earn more as the game goes on, and you can turn the music on or off during the game. I may do that if I find it too distracting, but it should be okay. Plus I want you to hear what it's got to offer. So you got to jump on the cubes, change them to the target colour, stay on the playfield. Jumping off will have fatal results. Yeah, you can't jump off the edge. The biggest challenge in this game isn't so much changing the colours of the squares that you need to, it's avoiding the enemies and creating a path for yourself where you don't trap yourself at any of the three corners of the triangle. Avoid characters or they will hurt you. The only exception is Bubby. When he appears, make sure you catch him. He's like a little green snowman with I don't know, some kind of little chick's face or something. There are two tireless baddies, the Mad Skull and the Angry Pig. Try to throw them out of the pyramid to earn extra points. Any pig has the ability to change the colour of some special cubes. I haven't encountered those yet, I don't think. I think the skull actually does appear early on, but I don't think the pig appears early on. Some benefits come to your rescue. Here are the discs in all the levels. Jump on them to escape perilous situations. Yeah, so just like Cubit, you've kind of got a get out stick, if you know what I mean. So you jump onto this little disc and it will take you back to the top of the stage and get you out of trouble. It's the only time you can actually jump off the playfield and not die. As the game progresses, you will be rewarded with more powerful bombs, and you can have a maximum of 3 bombs at any one time. Use them wisely. So that's the lowdown anyway. So there are 9 levels in all made for this game. Well, 9 levels. They're all pretty much the same. The difficulty increases, the amount of squares you have to traverse increases. This demo is only 4 stages long, and there is actually a cheat key on the demo, I can tell you now, which allows you to skip the stage whenever you want to. So if I do find I'm having trouble, I might skip that, but I think the first 4 stages I can manage okay. Now this game is another one of those, you know, it's a high score chaser. Arcade games are all about pursuing that high score and, you know, repeat gaming and trying to improve your score every time and beat other people. Hopefully we'll get a service pretty soon on the we're using Nextel. We'll be able to upload high scores directly and compete, you know, across the board or across the world. So just looking at some of the comments here, you can see that's one of the things I have added to my stream. We've actually got a chat thread at the side there, so you can see all comments from Facebook and YouTube. And Paul's dead. Not a fan of the Spectrum music, but this is nice. The AAA music capabilities of the Next is brilliant, Paul, honestly. Yes, you can use a gamepad or a stick. I haven't got one connected to my laptop to do this. I'm actually emulating this to get the best picture for the sake of this. I'm testing a few things with this stream. I'm going to mix that up shortly when I move on to my next topic, and you'll see why. And I don't explain too deeply into it, but I'm going to be doing like a live cam for the second part, and I'm emulating the Spectrum Next with C-Spect for showing off QB, because it seems to come out alright, and I just want to test how things work. So yeah, mate, honestly I'm hoping, Pete, for revival in November. All being well, it should be going ahead. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months, but hopefully the government will lift the thing on public gatherings and we can at least have revival. Not being too big, there's probably more of a possibility of us having that than there is of big events happening, so fingers crossed on that. And oh, nice of you to join us, Ant. Thanks very much for tuning in. And yeah, I love me a bit of Qubit too, mate. So off we go anyway. Let's start a game and show you what we're looking at here. So I've already mapped my keys the way I want. So we're just going to hit 0 and we're going to start the game. So level 1, pretty straightforward. You just got to hop on the squares once and change to one single colour. Okay, I stand corrected. I thought I changed my controls, but I haven't. That's my bad. I'm sorry about that. Amateur mistake. I thought I'd remap my controls, but I haven't, so I'm just going to bail. And I'll remap my controls properly. I think I might have done it when I was messing around with the real next earlier. Okay, let's try that again, shall we? So we'll go to menu options, redefine keys. Right, let's get this right now. So to jump right up we want P, jump left down we want K, jump left up O, jump right down L. That's what I wanted. And then to throw bomb we will have I, pause, U, toggle game music, M. That's better. Right, now let's start the game and do this properly, shall we? Beginner's mistake there, sorry. Right, let's try this again. That's better. So, it's about creating the right path for yourself without getting trapped. Which you easily can, like that. I've played this a few times, I can't believe I made that mistake so early on. But one thing you have to remember, you don't start at the top of the screen each time, you start at the wherever you left off, so to be careful and not just immediately jump off the side like I nearly did then. Oh, he preempted me then. I completed 2-3 levels without breaking a sweat earlier. I must be peer pressure because I'm actually got you guys watching now. There we go. So that's level 1 done. You can see that when the little red dudes get to the bottom of the screen, they actually change into those skull on a spring things. So yeah, I believe there is only one music track for this game, but it's cool, so I can deal with that. Bye. Oh, jumped down a bit too early then. My mistake. But we get a little bit of a head start now, so let's use that to our advantage. Ah, misread it. I really thought he was going to go to the left. It's okay. I'm at the bottom, so shouldn't be too bad. It looked really slick, I think. A New Zealand story, Phil. You know what, Don? I actually said something. I think whoever created this, you know, Daniel, maybe he was a fan of that game because there's something about the music, the style of the characters, does kind of remind me of that. I'm not sure what it is. Oh, had to use my bomb there. Could have been in serious trouble if I hadn't. Now, getting the bottom squares tends to be the most dangerous part of it, so as long as I've got the bottom squares, I should be okay to grab these. There we go. So that's stage 3 done. I mean, you look at the way it's drawn. Yes, we've got fairly simplistic backgrounds being single coloured, but they're not just plain black like they were on Qbit. You've got the animated discs, which looks nice. I'm sure there's people out there who play arcade games a lot and could tell you the best way to actually play Qbit. I'm not an expert. I haven't played the game tons over the years. I certainly haven't played it enough to get good at it. So I'm getting the hell out of here because he's on his way. Oh, and he's already pursuing me, look. Oh, this isn't looking good. Oh, no, no. It's quite intense, man. Ah, he got me. Git. I nearly completed the 4 levels there. Nice isometric Antitat remake. Yeah, you know what? An Antitat remake would be superb. I do like the viewpoint. I mean, it always worked really well with the original Spectrum when they were doing games that that use that viewpoint. They always seem to come out really well. You think about things like I don't know, Batman or is it Nightlaw? Trying to think, Head Over Heels. There's loads of games that use that perspective. and Ant-Attack obviously used the kind of high resolution to create the really small characters. Yeah, I really did used to like Ant-Attack. Ant-Attack was one of my favourites. You can see I've already beat myself in some of my earlier games here. Not good at all. Right, I'm going to have another go. And I mean, you'll probably be able to spot better than I am because I'm playing, but I think there are subtleties to the enemy AI, if you know what I mean, that makes them formidable. I'm probably not spotting them because obviously I'm gaming away the way I am. But I'm sure they have got patterns to them which... oh, get out of there. Yes. That's good as well. You score points for baiting those off the side, so I'm glad I forced him to chase me off there. Oh, I thought I'd just about dodge him there. Yeah, it always puts me off, that does. I always think I'm going to respawn at the top of the screen, but you actually respawn right back on the last square you were on. There was an old lady who had the world record to Cubit. Yeah, her name was Doris Self, Paul. She appeared in the King of Kong movie. I think she also appeared in the one they did after that. Was it Chasing Ghosts? I think she appeared in that as well. She used to hold the record. I think she was in her 80s and she somehow got the record. I'm amazed she didn't have arthritis or whatever. I know I'm probably stereotyping a little by saying that, but you know, for her to have the record at her age was quite an accomplishment, really. Oh, but yeah, she used to have the record to that, but she sadly died just after they made the documentaries, which is a bit of a shame. So yeah, I mean, there ain't many. I've got to be honest, right? When it came to the Spectrum, I was not one of those people who really enjoyed using a keyboard. There's a lot of people out there who swore by using like the rubber keys and things like that, and I always hated it. You know, even when I had the Spectrum Plus, and you know, even with the plastic keys, I just couldn't get to grips with using the keyboard at all. So all of my gaming was always done, and I mean always, with a joystick. I couldn't imagine not gaming with a joystick today. You know, I know that was partly because the Spectrum never had a real option, you know, to start with in terms of controls. But then as time went on, there was no reason not to use a joystick, and even though you got more keys available for multiple games and things like that, it's just like, to go back to keys, it just feels like, I don't know, it's like going back to illustrations after having CGI, you know what I mean? It's just not the same. But when I'm playing this, because of the way the keys are oriented, because you don't need the extra fire button apart from occasionally, it's actually very comfortable to play this one-handed on a keyboard in kind of a casual way, you know. You're only going up, down, left and right, and it's quite intuitive, you know, to your fingertips. Oh, I need to catch him, don't I? Oh, come here, you git. Oh, I lost a life chasing him. But yeah, this definitely feels, you know, like you've got a lot of control over it, and I'm really happy playing it on a keyboard. So if you're worried about not having the right controls and stuff like that, some people out there, you know, they've bought their Next and they haven't even considered what they're going to do for controlling the games. Yes, all 4 levels. That's actually the first time I've done all 4 levels, and that's a more respectable score. Oh. Ah, so there's only 4 stages, but we've got more difficulty. That's good. When Daniel said there were only 4 stages, I thought he meant that it would just end at level 4, but I've obviously got to get him. I've got to hop on each square twice now to be able to progress. That's obviously how Cubit was in the later stages, and not that easy when you got so many enemies after you at once. Run away! Oh, now I'm pressured. See, I've got peer pressure to think of now. No! Rubber keyboards are the best. Try Chucky Egg with a joystick. You know what? I'm sure some of the earlier games, to be fair, Pete, they were designed to be that way because obviously, like I say, because joysticks and peripherals, you know, joystick ports weren't built in as standard. They designed a lot of the games to be done with a keyboard because that was the only option that everybody guaranteed to have. Go on, quick! Yes! That was the only option, you know, most people had. But then as time goes on, it's like having, you know, joypads bundled with it. That was why consoles became so accessible, because anybody could just plug in a console, have the same controls to work with, and it's an even playing ground. Ah, right, so we're starting to get bad guys here. Starting to get bad guys here that operate on the different plane, on the face of the cubes. This is when things become a lot more complex. And I'm struggling already, I'll be honest. Oh, we went back, he predicted me. Git. Well, I did well there. 6 stages, not too bad, and a much better score this time. But the thing is, see, I'm playing this, and each time I die, I just want another go, because you just want to get that little bit further. Do you know what I mean? Hello, Mr. Butler. You were one of my early critics, my friend, and you were saying I should up my game when it came to doing these streams. So, just for you, is this a bit better? So, everything's presented a lot better here. There are issues with the C-Spect emulator. I think in a way they are partly intentional, because it's never going to be as good as using real Spectrum Next hardware. So the emulation is not 100%, but and it does generally only work properly at 50 Hz. But this game has been designed to work at 60 or 50 Hz without altering the speed. I've tested it on real hardware, and the speed is exactly the same on this. There's a couple of glitches on here, but so far it's not doing bad justice to the game, so I'm quite happy about that. Really enjoying it is quite a big demo, Paul. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. Oh, Mr. Ware, I'm glad you've tuned in, mate. Yeah, I'm going to be covering your games very shortly as well, and I think you'll be happy with what I've done as well. So that is QB, guys. I don't want to kind of go into it too much, because I don't want to spoil it for you. For those guys who are buying it, it's always horrible when someone shows you everything, and these days it does tend to be a trend of people, you know, kind of the first day a game's out, they want to go and upload a full playthrough on YouTube and say, look, I did it all in 2 hours, and it's like, I really hate that, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't do that, and I certainly wouldn't do it to developers who are trying to create something that's going to last people, and people are going to want to get to grips with because they paid for it. So that's about as much as I'm going to show you in terms of gameplay. I mean, you can see how cool it is. My thoughts on it, I mean, I've played a lot of Spectrum Next games, probably more Spectrum Next games than most people out there, to be fair, because I've been sent a lot of them early and things like that. And it's just instantly accessible. It controls, it's very hard to describe, but it controls so well. I mean, I've been operating it there on my laptop keyboard. I've played it on the Next keyboard, and it feels just as slick. But obviously, if you've got a joypad, you can, you know, play it just the same. And obviously, if you've got a physical joystick, it's quite easy to just turn your joystick 45 degrees, and then you've got the natural, you know, directions you're pushing, and your fire button readily accessible. So it's going to be brilliant to play. And I think anybody out there who's considering getting it, if you've bought things from, you know, if you bought the early Software Amusements games, you know, those were early test beds, but, you know, the games coming out now are really starting to show what can be done. These games that are coming out now are just next level stuff, and even something as simple as an arcade pseudo port like this, it's still really playable and really accessible. And if you're going to want some dedicated games for your Next, build a collection now. Go and order this now. There's a link at the top of the screen you can see there, order at D-Low Games. If you use that link on there after watching my video, so please use that link. And if you've got any comments about it, then please leave them on here. So yeah, that is QB, and I'm going to drop that out now because we're done with that, and we're going to switch over to my other feed, because the other thing I want to show is something that's been released for free. So let's just switch my stream video over, and you can see I've got a live feed going on here. Now, the way I've designed my backgrounds and stuff here, this wasn't actually intentional, but I've kind of designed it with this kind of old school CRT kind of look here, and that I've done that for all of my emulation that I've been streaming on here. But as it happens, I am actually filming a screen. I've actually set up a direct feed using my iPhone as a Wi-Fi webcam, and I've set it up in a 4:3 aspect resolution. And I've got it literally picking up the feed directly off a screen that I've got set up here. So if I tap that, you can see we've got it on screen. It's going to be a little, obviously, there's going to be a little bit of overscan. It's just the way I've set it up, viewing the screen. I've done it so you can best see the games themselves rather than the full expanse of the next screen. I'll just have a sip of the old Jack there, and we'll get into it. Right, so the other thing that's been released this week, obviously, the guys at Rusty Pixels, obviously I'd do a fair bit with them. I'd need to be doing a lot more at the moment, and I will be. But yeah, they've been hard at work at so many other things besides the games they've been finishing up to get ready for full paid release. And I hope you've ordered them. If you haven't, have a chat with them now, because if you haven't ordered your physical copies, there may not be another chance. So have a chat with them and see if there's any physical copies left. I'm sure there'll be a digital release as well. So have a word with Mike Ware or Jim Bagley, and I'm sure they'll be able to inform you of what's best going on there. But yeah, they've been doing a few things on the side as well, partly to test themselves, partly to kind of prove points and demonstrate what can really be done. And rather than just doing standard demos and stuff like that, there's a lot of people doing demos in the classic, computer demo sense, but in producing things that you can actually interact with, they've been hard at work on things that aren't going to profit them in any way, and neither could they really when you actually look at the subject of this. So what we've got here is R.A.M.S. This is the Rusty Arcade Machine Simulator. Now, I previewed this in 2 previous videos, probably back end of last year. I did the very first one, and then early this year I showed another version of it. I think that's around the time frame I'm thinking of. I think it was just before Christmas I originally showed it. And what this is, what the guys have done, they've taken original arcade games, forgive the screensaver there, they've taken original arcade games, and what they've done is they've kind of created a hybrid system for the Next that works a little like MAME. If anybody, a lot of people out there have used MAME obviously, but rather than directly emulating the arcade hardware in software, what they're actually doing is they've created a sort of interpreter, and what it does is it will take the information, the logic, the AI and everything from the actual arcade ROMs that they choose to put in there, obviously, and then what it will do is it will interpret those, and that they've made it so it will execute the logic exactly the same way. But then there's also a kind of there's like an interpreter that will convert it and use assets that have been created in the Next palettes and music that the AY chip can understand, to recreate the games as faithfully as possible without being a full emulation and recreating the full arcade sound. It does it so it basically takes an arcade game and makes it into a Next game, but it's an arcade perfect Next port. So that's what they've done with this, and not only have they done that, but they've gone the extra mile and they've actually created a front end for it. Now, a lot of you out there have got your own home-built arcade machines. You've got your home-built, you've got your little Raspberry Pi devices or whatever you've got. You're used to working with front ends and things now, and they kind of work in conjunction with the ROMs that you download, and that they then create the menu system that you can launch it from, and you get your screenshots and your videos playing. Well, they've integrated all of that into a single Next executable, and the Next executable, this first release anyway, has got quite a few games added to it already, and they're looking to add more as time goes on. It's not as simple though as writing an emulator and then having, all that hardware that it's capable of emulating, then getting a ROM and just dropping it in and having it work from the off. That won't work, because they have to create the assets and convert the assets to Next palettes and do certain things with the way the screen displays and things like that. It's not as simple as just adding those in, but in a pretty short space of time, the guys have done really well with this. So when you download this package from Rusty Pixels, you get the R.A.M.S executable, then you get certain games that are supported with it, but then what you have to do is you have to supply your own ROMs for the game itself. Now, I'm not sure exactly which build of MAME these ROMs come from. I would imagine it would be from the earlier ports of MAME, the ones that were designed to work on more basic hardware when MAME was still at a stage where it only emulated kind of early Z80 arcade games. And I think that's why they've gone down this road, because the games that are supported, we're not going to be getting Tekken and fucking Virtua Fighter, so forget about that. But the certainly the classic arcade games, they're going to be on here. Most of them use Z80 processors from the off anyway, and obviously Spectrum Next can do that perfectly, so that's not a problem at all. So the games we got on here anyway, just taking a look. Oh, sorry, quickly, I've just been sent a message, guys. Let me quickly check that, just in case it's one of the devs telling me something I need to know. No, nothing. That's okay. So yeah, we've got this menu system here, and on the menu you can see we've got a few games already in. So starting with the Nintendo Seminole Classic, we've got the original Donkey Kong. I think that is the US ROMs version. So the stage order would go barrel stage, final stage with the girders, then it goes back to the barrel stage, and then it goes through the 4 stages like the elevator level and the pie factory. So yeah, and then you've got the Japanese version. The Japanese version is actually the one I prefer. It's a little bit simpler than the American one, I think, and it follows a more logical level order. So you go with barrel stage, elevator stage, pie factory, and then the girder stage, where you bring Donkey Kong down. So yeah, so you got that option there. There's an entry there at the moment for Frogger, but I don't think work has actually been completed on emulating Frogger properly. The entry is there because I've got a part dev build, part full release, and it's already a template's kind of been put in for Frogger. There's also a couple more games on here like Moon Crester and Radar Scope, which aren't fully supported yet, but they're working on it obviously as time goes on. So the other games we've got access to, we've got Galaxian. Obviously, I actually prefer Galaga myself, but Galaxian is the original, and it's the one everyone is probably most familiar with. Then we've got Hangly Man. So we've also, not only have we got the original games, we've got the clones as well. So we've got Hangly Man, which was quite a strange maze layout variant on Pac-Man. We've got original Pac-Man there, of course, and I believe Ms. Pac-Man and Baby Pac-Man, I think, are on the cards as well. So already there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 working games. Obviously, well, there's actually a total of 3 working games plus, you know, 1 or 2 clones there. Yeah, you get a little bit of information at the bottom of the screen there. You can see it gives the date it was released, the publisher, and whatever. It tells you if the screen rotates or not. And you get a little screenshot in case you've forgotten what the game looks like. So there's a couple of things you can do from here. I think if we press, is it S, I believe? Yes, we get a settings screen you can call up here. So you can change your key mappings in settings. You can change the settings so you know, it locks your settings to one game or all. There's actually a background music for the title screen here, which I'll quickly enable. And then there's a couple of other things you can do. But yeah, I've already set up my keys and everything for this, so I'm not going to go through all that. But yeah, this actually supports as well. This supports joypads, it supports joysticks. So if you want to use those, which you definitely would want to do for arcade games, then you can actually use those. And I apologise, the screen's shaking slightly. It's because I've got my camera on the same part of the table that I'm actually leaning on here. But you should just about be able to hear the background music there. I think Space Fractal's done that. And if we go into a game, we can show you what the score is. So, loading up straight away. I do apologise for the overscan, but I'm trying to get as much relevance in frame as possible. That's the important thing. And obviously it looks quite retro like this anyway. So you've got a few options here when it comes to displaying the game. So as standard here, all of the Donkey Kong screen appears there in frame perfectly, and then what they've done is they've offset the HUD over here to the side, and that means you haven't got to have an extra tall screen or have your screen rotated to be able to view it properly. If you're not a fan of that layout though, you can actually rotate the screen if I press the right key. So we can rotate the screen on its side there, and if you can just twist your neck to the left slightly for a minute, you can see that obviously if you do have a rotating monitor, so if you set this up with VGA or something like that and you've got a rotating monitor, you can actually have the layout exactly like the vertical arcade game, and view it that way. There's also a compressed version where the screen condenses down and it gets rid of the HUD on the right hand side. On Pac-Man, on the early version that I saw, you would actually display your scores on the left and the right there, offset into the border area. Now I can't see that on this version. It was on the earlier one, so we'll see if it was just for Pac-Man or whether they're going to do it for this game as well. Now, if you're using a Mega Drive joypad, you've got a lot of functions directly on the control pad itself. You can press, you obviously got your up, down, left and right, but then you've got one button for fire, two buttons for fire if you need it, depending on the game you're playing. You got an extra button which can add coins and another button for start, so you know you can have it all there on the joypad with you. You don't ever have to press the reset button, so you can sit back on your settee with your control pad in hand and not have to touch anything if you want to play your game. The only time you'll have to interact with your Spectrum is if you want to go back to the menu, and what they've done in this version, which I didn't actually have on the demo version, was if you now hit the brake key on the keyboard, it takes you back to the front end, which I thought was quite cool. The early version that I was playing a couple of months ago, you didn't actually have that, so you couldn't actually return to the title screen after playing a game. You had to use the reset button on the side of your next every time. I mean, they're in the same location, fair enough, but at least you haven't got to keep hard resetting the system, you know. So we'll play a game anyway, and you can hopefully see what the difference is. So let's go into Donkey Kong, and we'll add a few credits. When I first start it up and I press the start button, you'll notice, if you can hear it, I've turned up as loud as I can kind of get away with right now. You'll hear the sound is very close to the arcade. It's at the same pace and speed, but some of the effects are slightly different, and that's just because of the way the AY chip interprets the music. So anyway, off we go. So the sound of Mario walking is slightly different, not massively different though. The hammer music is pretty much pitch perfect. The palettes on this game, I've got to say, are again very, very close to the arcade. I've played the arcade a lot over the years, and I've seen some ports that don't replicate that very well at all. Whoa, that was dangerous. Come on. Can I get to the top? First time. This is a fucking hard game, guys. Anybody who's ever played the arcade game. See, one advantage you always had with ports back in the day, they always made the home versions earlier, so you felt like you were getting slightly better value for money. No such luck when it comes to RAMs. You've got full arcade difficulty, and you're going to be punished for it if you make a mistake. So that was stage 1 done. Now there is a path to this you're supposed to take, and I always get it wrong, so plus I'm playing on a keyboard, which isn't ideal for Donkey Kong, I've got to be honest. I would definitely prefer to be on a joystick for this game, but come on. Yeah, this isn't the right path, but you know what, beggars can't be choosers. I'm going to die if I take the correct path, so let's just see if we can just bring Donkey Kong down. If we can bring Donkey Kong down, I'll be very happy. So you got the same little glitch there as the arcade. You have to kind of go down the ladder and back up in order to, in order to get it. To that parasol. Oh, I nearly died. Honestly, it's so tight here. I'm doing pretty well with the keyboard here. I'm surprised, to be honest. Come on, that's it. Perfect. Come on. One more peg to get. They're all trapped over there. Yes. Dun, 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 dun. I can't believe I've played this with a joystick and the joypad a million times, and every time I've struggled to get past one or two stages. I've just done that first time, but then obviously the American version here gets really friggin' hard straight away. So second barrel stage, and already this is when things start to come undone. The barrels are a lot more vicious, the patterns are a lot more random. Yeah, should have jumped straight up. But like I say, the sound's pretty accurate, you know, the music's pretty accurate. And the gameplay, sure as hell, is accurate. Just as punishing, just as much fun, and just as slick. I can't remember I've actually assigned as the pause key. I think I might still have P as pause. Yes, I have. I'm going to quickly change the viewpoint just so you can see what it's like in... Oh, thought good. Maybe I can't do while it's paused. Now you have to be running. So that's the screen as it looks with the board remover. Obviously you can see there the bottom girder is just off screen, unfortunately. So not an ideal layout maybe for this game. For the other stages, probably not too bad, but for this one, it's okay once you got past the bottom, but at the on this display you can't actually see the bottom girder. Still plays just as well, and you can do all this on the fly as well. So the good thing is, if you're messing about with settings, the good thing is as well, when you do rotate the screen, you can actually press J on the keyboard and it will rotate your joystick as well, so you can actually rotate your control settings, which is quite handy if you're using like an arcade joystick or something. So that's enough of Donkey Kong anyway. We'll take a quick look at some of the others. Obviously you've seen Donkey Kong, so we'll go with Galaxian. Galaxian is one I couldn't actually show before. They hadn't actually finished the emulation of it, and we were getting a little bit of glitching on there early on because it was just being tested. Yeah, and it just plays just perfect. So let's add some credits to this and see if we can play this as well. This I might struggle with because I'm using one hand and the way I've got my fire button map's a little bit awkward, but I'll do my best anyway. There we go. Whoa. This is tricky. Whoa. Yeah, with Gallagher the firing's a little bit quicker. I'm a lot more used to Gallagher, I'll be honest. The movement of the enemies is quite loud on this version, to be honest. But obviously that's just the way the AI has been set up to interpret the music. Whoa, that was close. That was even closer. Whoa, too close for comfort. Yeah, got the guy at the top. Nice one. Not doing too bad actually. Lost one life. There's a few left to get. As long as I can hit the moving targets, I should be okay. The last few are always a pig. Got him! Quite pleased with that. Straight onto the second wave. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, there are some settings you can actually go into during the game. I believe if I press S, is it S? Yes, there we go. So you can actually alter the dip switches as well. So just like MAME, you can go in and you can change things like the amount of ships you have. You can change the amount of ships you have, change the amount of credits you get, the amount of bonus lives and things you get. So, you know, just like the actual arcade, you can mess around with it and make it a little bit easier for home play. So it's cool. So, you know. So the last one I suppose I better show is obviously Pac-Man, because it's Pac-Man. I think Gaming 101, you know, I guess it's one of those type of games that very early on, I mean, I can only imagine this as a coder. It's one of those games like Space Invaders. You would learn to make this kind of game pretty early on, I would imagine, in terms of designing levels and working out, you know, enemy patterns and things like that. Now, Pac-Man's an interesting case because the graphics wouldn't condense too well. So what they've actually done with this, and you'll see in a minute once he moves towards the top part of the maze, is they've made the left-hand side of the screen scroll. So if you've ever played ports for the home, like the NES version or certain other versions for the home, I think a couple of the home versions did actually scroll, but some of the early 8-bits couldn't handle the scrolling very well. This does it very well, and I'm going to play it that way because that's actually my favourite way to play this. So here we go. God, I love that music. Now, I haven't got a clue about the patterns. Really, I need a pro here to tell me exactly what I'm doing wrong. Might actually be quite a nice little promo thing, actually, is at the next revival, I'll invite John Stooley along, and I'll see if he can play the next version and see what, you know, exactly what he thinks of it, and see just how arcade perfect it is, because if there's any faults, he's going to know it. I mean, he's done perfect Pac-Man game, so he knows this game inside and out. So I might invite him over next time we do revival and ask him to actually play this version and see how far he can get playing on a keyboard. I mean, it'll be interesting for him. Could always set him up with a joystick, I suppose. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how he finds it. I mean, from my point of view and my experiences with this game, it's as accurate as you're going to get, you know. And, you know, the sound effects and everything aren't compromised too much by it being AY sound on this. There's a slight pitch difference you can hear. But I've cleared the board, so I can't be doing too bad. And again, if we press the R key on this, we can rotate the screen to be that way round. What's good about this is because you've only got up, down, left and right, and I haven't rotated the controls, up, down, left and right directly corresponds to what I'm still pressing on the keys anyway. So I can play it this way for a bit of added challenge. If you do happen to know this game inside and out, you could play it this way for a bit of added challenge. So yeah, there we go anyway. There we go. So you can see on this layout, well, you can't, it's slightly off screen. If I turn this slightly, I'm going to ruin the illusion here, but on the side of the screen there, you can see on this mode the actual HUD credentials are offset into the border space. That's a trick a lot of us have been doing with the next games, and it works perfectly for this, obviously, when you've got a vertical display, because you don't sacrifice any of the screen. You can still just about see the bottom row of dots there, so you don't actually lose anything there, but obviously your score's offset to the sides, and in this kind of display it means you don't actually you don't have to have a scrolling screen. So if the scrolling screen puts you off, you haven't got to put up with it. So anyway, that was Pac-Man. One second. There we go. So yeah, so that is R.A.M.S on the Spectrum Next. A very good arcade simulator there, and if you haven't downloaded it already, I'd strongly recommend you do. You can see just up there I've put the download link. If you go to the Rusty Pixels website, you can go there directly now and you can download this. You will need to supply your own arcade ROMs. There's no license to distribute those. So if you do happen to have the arcade ROMs yourself, you can dump the ROMs, and on the Rusty Pixels website it tells you the exact ROM chip components needed in order to play the game properly. So if you've got slightly different board revisions and things like that, on their site it tells you the exact ROMs that you need and so you should be able to obtain those pretty easily. If you do find you take the ROMs from your current MAME setup or something like that and they're the wrong ones, then you can obtain them from elsewhere. You can find a working version for this, and you can find the information you need there. So if you're looking to expand your Spectrum Next library right now, there's a couple of really good offerings I've shown you there. R.A.M.S, obviously, a fantastic thing you can download for free, and again, a perfect demonstration of what the Next can do in terms of arcade game ports and arcade game performance. And obviously we then got QB, which is a spiritual port, an unofficial port of Qubit, and that is now available to buy as a physical copy from D-Lo Games. I've just switched over my screen there. You can see the link at the top, which says if you go there, they'll know that I referred you there, and it'll go some way to helping me get you early advance viewings of games in the future, if the developers know for sure that people are following these streams. So anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That's about all I've got to say this evening. There are a few other things going on with the Spectrum Next. There's a few more games in development, and there's going to be a lot more to show from me soon. Now I've got my proper streaming set up, I am going to be looking to do some live streams, actually show me developing some of the artwork and things for my own game, Revival Survival, live. So I'm probably going to do a couple of sessions where I'm altering all the screens and redrawing all the graphics and things like that. I'll do all that live so you can see the kind of time it takes, and you know, the procedures I do. They're rather amateurish procedures I take in order to convert my arcade game to the Next, and hopefully there'll be a new version of that soon. There is a 2-stage demo out there now. You can get that directly from me. You can speak to the Rusty Pixels guys. It will be hosted elsewhere soon, and hopefully it'll be an upcoming distribution as well. And hopefully before long we'll actually have a final game for you. But yeah, lots going on there. Go and buy QB, go and download R.A.M.S, they're awesome. And I'm signing off for now. Take it easy guys, enjoy the rest of your